Hey, what's up, everybody? BDL44 coming at you another video. All right, so Laker time. We talked a great deal about the Lakers win yesterday, game one against the Memphis Grizzlies, of course. My mind has been going blank a lot lately, but nevertheless, we talked a lot about that game, and really we're happy with the performances of all of our players. Obviously, it was a big game for several guys on our team, and as a collective, we really punched the Grizz in the mouth. So that was something that we were extremely happy about, and we wanted to give the right amount of praise to everybody for how well they played, but we also want to keep our mind focused on on to the next game. Whether we win or lose, it has to be on to the next game, because at the end of the day, in order for us to reach our goal, we're gonna have to overcome both hard times and traps that will ultimately lead us to being overconfident. Those type of traps. You want to have a balance. You don't want to get to a point where you're not appreciating what you accomplish. You know what I mean? Being so focused on being perfect that you can't even, stop the smell of roses. But you also don't want to be so high and mighty in your first, punch that you think you've won the series after one game. They don't credit you with no series win for beating a team in one game. You got to get all four of them. And it's going to be a tough series, and adjustments and all of that will be present. So you got to be able to react to those well. So we're going to see what our team can do in that way. But the one thing that I'm paying attention to is Ja Morant's hand injury right now, since that's going to determine so much of what we expect to see. From what I understand, he's not even listed on the injury report, so that's really good news for Grizzlies fans. But he said he's in a great deal of discomfort with that hand. Taylor Jenkins said he's not going to be limited in the next game. And with Ja Morant being as athletic as he is, genetically gifted, I think it's a good chance we see him again. You consider the type of injury that you thought that was when he landed, the fact that there was no structural damage and it becomes a muscle thing. If you look at how his muscles move, he may be in a much better position to be all right in a hyperextended situation like that, where there's no ligament damage. Since he's incredibly strong and gifted, maybe he was able to dodge a bullet with that. But I also think there's a good chance that some organization somewhere would embellish on an injury like that for a million reasons. And even though it is bad, they ain't gonna tell you it's bad, because they want to keep the mental edge, and they also want to just kind of let the player play through it. Ja's in a heck of a lot of pain, and he definitely should not be shooting any basketballs with his hand being hurt. It's a right hand injury. He's a right-handed player. I'm sure he's ambidextrous. Most basketball players at that level can finish with both hands, but when it comes to shooting the ball, he's a right-handed player. So I'm of the mindset that you could find yourself being a liability, a complete and utter liability, if your digits are messed up and you're trying to be out there. It's the same thing I said about Kobe back in the day. He messed up his shooting percentage drastically by playing on a broken hand and not healing it. And I think Sabonis is probably doing the exact same thing right now with the thumb, which is highly risky. And now Ja, with his hand allegedly just fine, I'm not certain that is what's actually going on with his hand. I just think the Grizzlies are like, it's fine, go back out there. And he's like, yeah, I'm a young kid, I'm gonna do it. And since I put the organization through so much, let me just kind of just go out there. And it's like, nah. First of all, if there is something actually wrong with that hand and it could get worse, don't allow your past mistakes with the organization to coerce you into a situation that's going to be more of a headache for the organization, just because they're not wise enough to pull back and see that part. You got to see that part. If you're going to start messing with this kid's hand and you got $200 million invested in him, the last thing you want to do is send him back out there to further hurt the hand. You know what I mean? It's just the truth. Organizations have to gauge what matters most to them. Obviously, we're risking Anthony Davis and Bron's health with the foot. As a Laker fans, we know how that goes. But they're further into their careers, man. That's the difference. Ja's in year 4, 3, and you want to start playing with hand injuries? Nah, you don't. Absolutely not, you don't. You know what I mean? That's the type of thing where you let that heal fully, and you think about the next 14 years of your career. That's what you think about. And granted, this is a good opportunity, but you're already down 2 players. It's not like you expect to win a championship. And that's also a part of it. If they had their full team and an extra all-star on top of that, and they were the number one team in the West going to the championship, and now they got this injury, and he can actually play through it if he just grits it. Ain't none of that's real. Ain't none of that's real. What's actually real is that you're probably going to lose whether you're out there or not, the way the Lakers playing in this to start this series. So if you don't have him at full strength, it's probably not going to be to your betterment any damn way. That's what I think. When you consider Tyus Jones and how fantastic of a point guard he is, you can afford to rest Ja for a couple games if that's what it takes for him to not be a liability for the rest of your playoffs. So I think that there's a chance that's what they're thinking, but they're still going to throw us off by telling us he's fine so that we're prepared for him, and when we get out there, he's not there. You know, that's what I would do. That's what I think teams could do, but I don't know that teams often do that. It's just something I think that would be wise for them to do when it comes to injuries to big stars. And even role players, too. Not everybody should know the status of these guys. Wait till the last minute for the other team to know what the heck they should be preparing for. So I think that Taylor Jenkins could be doing something like that with Ja's injury, regardless of how well it's doing. So that's something I want to say, man. Be prepared for Ja to be out there. And I don't know if that's really what's best for the kid. But nevertheless, that's what it looks like the organization is preparing him to kind of do. Go out there and play hurt. You put us through enough. Get your butt out there. So we'll see how that works out for him, man. You know, in the playoffs, when you have a bad hand, I don't know if it's still like this in this era because, you know, guys have a different personality. But back in the day when I was a kid, you got a bad hand, they're swiping at it. You got a bad shoulder, they're leaning on that. If you got a back contusion, you probably shouldn't even be out there. Like, that's how I was in the old school days. Guys know what's wrong with you. They're going to swipe at it. They're going to hunt that. They're going to make sure that that's hurt. You got an elbow problem? Cool. They're going to be bumping into that elbow every time they get a chance. You got hit in your head? Perfect. We're going to make sure you get hit in the head in that same spot. It's the playoffs, man. And I know how bad that can be for players, having watched this game for so long. So he going to have Vando on him. He going to have Schroeder on him. You know what I mean? We're going to put long players on him. They're going to be swiping at the basketball. And every time he dribbles anything, if that hand ain't right, shoots anything, it's going to be affected. It's going to be affected. So I have a lot of faith in Ja Morant. He's a hell of a superstar. He's going to be a phenomenal version of himself, even if he's dealing with half of a hand. You know, he's still a phenomenal guy on the court. But some stuff is just a real disadvantage for you. And when you have a player with a bad digit trying to shoot the ball and handle the rock in a playoff situation against a very good defense, I tell you, that's a recipe for disaster. I know that. So that is what the Memphis Grizzlies are facing when they're dealing with us, because we are playing some fantastic defense right now. Yesterday, 11 blocks as a team, 7 blocks for AD, 3 blocks for Bron. They took care of the whole thing, man. They took care of the whole thing. They were rim protection. And so you got to give credit to our superstars for that. And then several steals and stuff like that. You just love the Lakers' production defensively against the Grizzlies to start the series, especially since there were some questions of whether or not we were going to be able to contain Ja Morant, since he picked us apart the last time we saw him so bad in the third quarter. But all in all, I think our team really dodged the bullet with him getting that injury, exiting the game when he did, and we were getting hot at the same time. So it just really propelled us to the win. But, you know, I'm also thankful that we walked out of there healthy. You know, any game you can walk out of a playoff game with your full spectrum of players having played in it and everybody's cool, that in and of itself is something you should be happy about, especially given the fact that health is so important throughout the playoff series. You know, one player removed could change your matchup circumstances. Now an advantage could turn into a disadvantage just with one player removed, that kind of thing. So anytime you walk out of there healthy, that should be something you at least tip your hat to the sky about. We talked so much about who we want to see use, who we don't want to see use. I don't want to get into that too much, but, you know, roster rotations are obviously something that I think can make or break us, so we got to keep with that. Rui Hachimura playing so well in the third quarter yesterday. You just want to see him get more minutes. We talked about that. That needs to happen. Austin Reeves, that's a winner, man. I tell people that's a winner. You know, when you see him close a basketball game out like this is the same trade I told y'all he's had the whole time. This guy is clutch. He gets more confident as the game gets closer. He has shown clutch ability since the first couple of weeks we put him on the floor. He was the guy last year when we were running small ball with old men that would string together a couple of shots down the stretch of a basketball game. We never won those games because we were never good enough to actually get him through the door. But the trait was on display for people like myself to see and say, okay, he's going to help us win games someday. He showed us glimpses of it. You know, it was like 3 or 4 games last year where he went on a tirade down the stretch of a basketball game. And we just didn't have no help because we didn't have no rim protection, no rebounding, no talent. Bron AD, and they were halfway hurt most of the time. It was just him and a bunch of old dudes mostly. Wenyen Gabriel in the second half of it, Stanley Johnson. We didn't have a good team. But Austin would just, in the fourth quarter, the last 6 minutes of the game, just start playing better. Just start playing all the way better, getting more efficient, hitting his free throws more so, getting to the line, drawing fouls on the other end, getting stops. And so it's like, okay, that's where the mystique is. It's not just in his length. It's not just in his skill set and the fact that he can be switchable and stuff like that. Nah, it's in his instincts. It's in his killer instinct. It's in his determination down the stretch of a basketball game to lead his team to glory. And we just didn't often empower him to do that because, of course, you put the ball in Bron's hands and the kid would have to calm down. You know what I mean? It's like, even if you got it tonight, we're not going to let you have it tonight, and then we proceed to lose the game. It's like, nah, that's the killer we want to take over. And we saw that in the playoff game. We finally empowered him in a way that I thought we could the whole time. Yeah, our superstars can get us to the finish line, but they don't have to be the ones to run us through the tape. We got a young killer that can allow Bron and AD to play off the ball. They can expect to receive the ball in smart ways, and they can expect him to convert on the shot down the stretch. They don't even have to do nothing. They can be the decoy that draws attention away from him. And so that's what we saw. It's exactly what we saw, and I think it's a recipe that's could work for the Lakers because he is a killer. He can close. He has the gene. It ain't just something he's learning. Nah, it's in him. It's in him. And when I identified that, I let us all know it. And so I'm just seeing what I always knew was there manifest, man. All of it. I saw this the very first day I scouted the kid. As soon as we picked him up, I looked at what he could do and I saw this. I literally saw this in the highlights. And then I listened to Skip Bayless, who said he watched him for 4 years in college because the school that he went to, I guess, was a school that Skip watches religiously. I honestly don't know what the school was. Maybe it was Vanderbilt. I doubt it, though. But whatever the case may be, he watched Austin Reeves as much as anybody in college, and he told us that Austin Reeves was a clutch player. He didn't really, he wasn't as good as he is now, but in college he was always showing a certain type of killer instinct and a certain intensity about running the floor for others, creating for others, making plays for others, hitting big shots and things of that nature. Austin was always doing that stuff. So now that he's in the league, you can see all of it come together with him having such fantastic size on top of it. He's a player that just about every team in the league should covet this offseason, quite honestly. I can't think of a team that shouldn't add him to their situation. You're better for having him, so are we. So that's really what it comes down to. He's going to be an all-around player. He's going to make an all-star team, I'm certain. He is, especially with his mystique growing in the way that it is. The fact he plays for this organization doesn't hurt at all. And I think that even if for some reason he doesn't get the coach's vote, eventually he's going to get the fan vote if he continues to ascend and win with the LA Lakers next to LeBron James and Anthony Davis. So that's really what it comes down to. You look at the fullness of the Laker team and all the different things that we have. And then you look over at him and you realize what he's capable of. You just have that much more confidence that this team can reach its highest goal. When you look at the intangibles of various teams that you expect to win a championship, they all have pieces that are capable of going off next to the stars without being the co-stars. You know what I mean? They got the stars, they got the running mates, co-star, sidekick guy, and then it's the role players. And if the role players can go, then I think the team is a contender. Well, the Lakers got players all up and down the roster that can go. And, and it's even more that you don't see listed on the report. So that's one of those things where it's like the Lakers. I just think that, as I always say, the fullness of our strength is in the sum of our pieces. And we come together and use everybody. I think there's a whole league of people that cannot beat us in a 7-game series. We just so happen to have what I think might be the best roster in the league right now. You know what I mean? Just so happen. It's one of those type of things. Like, yes, this is my team, and if they happen to be the Portland Trailblazers, I still say the same thing because that's how dang good the roster is. So I'm fortunate as a fan, and I'm enjoying what they've put together. And I want us to utilize it properly. And I was very encouraged by the first game of the playoffs. We've talked so much about what we want to see the team do. There should be plenty of stuff now that they've heard from my channel alone, if they follow me, that would give them things that ultimately cater to what it is that we're seeing and change. You know, when I first started talking about this team, I wanted us to get young players, start valuing assets, get rid of guys that couldn't do nothing for us on the back of benches who were making like $3 and $4 million, but not really doing as much production and couldn't be traded for nothing. All of these things we were preaching in the camera as complaints. And our team has taken care of every last one of them. Throughout the 2 years that I've been doing this channel, they've been really, really, really doing what I want to see them do. So now that we're in this space where all that I wanted to see happen has happened for our roster, basically we're in a space that I would approve of. Now it's just about seeing that process through and, you know, celebrating the fact that we've done it. And that's how I look at it, because Rob Pelinka can sit back and smoke a cigar because he put together a hell of a roster that can win a championship. And everybody know it. Everybody in the league should be aware of that at this point. So he's the exec of the year, even though I was high on his case, flip-flopped a million times. It just came down to when it was time for his number to be called, when it was time to actually execute a trade. Could that trade get done, and could it be something we were appreciative of? Because we waited so long and passed on so much, so it made it look like he wasn't doing nothing. But what he was actually doing was passing on a bunch of stuff that wasn't as good as what it is that he was going to be doing. So that, my friends, was best case scenario in our minds at the time when we were watching a bunch of stuff, and it turned out as good as we were ever praying it would be. So that's really what it is, man. I felt a little negative when we first made trades because I knew that we were closing the door on Kyrie Irving. But I do believe that Kyrie Irving is a fantastic piece, but he has to be built around a certain way. You got to have certain pieces in place to get the most, not only out of him, but to mask certain things that are going to go wrong because of his size and his defensive limitations. And so that's something that you have to weigh against his overall super duper talent, and versus what it is we've put together that doesn't have as many holes, that has more pieces to it and is less expensive because of it. That's very important. Kyrie Irving, if he's at the price that everybody believes he's going to be, it ain't going to be shorter than probably $40 million a year. Problem is, I can't do $40 million a year if I got AD and Bron. You see what I'm saying? And then I'm trying to make the team deep enough. I can't have him, a player that's going to require a lot, on the team, keeping me from being able to afford the stuff that I need to make him what he needs to be. So that's what it is with Kyrie. I don't think it's as seamless as removing D'Lo and bringing him in, because now you got more of a smaller dynamic that you have to account for. Now Dennis Schroeder's piece doesn't look as strong because now you're slapping him next to small ball players again in this situation. It's what we're trying to get away from. You don't have that problem with D'Lo. You know what I'm saying? That's not a problem that we're going to have with him because he's taller. You could put D'Lo at the 2 and be switchable. You know, that kind of thing, pulling back at the 1, put Austin in, have all kinds of switchable stuff. Now with Kyrie, it's like, all right, do we have enough help defensive players? Do we have players who are taking shots away from him? Guys who are going to try to, kind of disrupt his style, his ISO style. Can players play with it? Like, you got to bring stuff to Kyrie to make the team as good as this needs to be. If you were to do that right now, the team ain't as good. Essentially what I'm telling you. We're going to be better because we have a high-level talent that can go absolutely crazy. But you're going to be opening up. You're not going to be as good as a defensive team as we are right now. And so that matters to me, man. It matters to me a lot. And so, there's a lot of things that would have made me happy in this offseason. One of the things that we did definitely was one of those things. If you have to pass on Kyrie Irving, give me about 4 people. You know what I'm saying? That's how I went with. That's my thing. Because if we would have just brought in Fred VanVleet and just chose him over Kyrie Irving at the same price, I would have been happy to have Fred VanVleet, but I don't think we would have been as good as we are right now. In fact, I know we wouldn't be. And it's the same thing I said about the New York Knicks. As bad as Stephen A. wants Donovan Mitchell, I firmly believe that his team would not be better if they made that trade. I think they're better right now. In fact, I'm certain of it. And I mean, but the media are going to tell you the superstars are the thing to have because that's what they believe. But the reality is they don't know no better than a lot of casuals do when it comes to how important depth is and the risk that they're actually asking for. You're asking for a risk that's unnecessary. You're going to give away 5 or 6 picks and a bunch of players for Donovan Mitchell Donovan Mitchell's one person. Now you're out of all those picks and players. You know what I mean? So if Donovan goes down with an injury, now your team sucks. It's like, why the hell do you even want that? That's not something to want. So that's the same thing I say about Kyrie Irving. I can't say that I would have been upset if we got Kyrie Irving because I didn't see what was on the table that otherwise would have been available. But once I see the two things, that you bring these two things to the Lakers, of course you got to go with the pieces that are Vando, Beasley, you know what I'm saying, Rui Hachimura, Bamba, D'Angelo, all those players over one person who you're going to have to hide on the defensive end, who you're going to have to keep size around, who you're going to basically need Vanderbilt to help with. You know, it's the same thing I said about acquiring Kyrie Irving for the Dallas Mavericks. You got rid of Dorian Finney-Smith. That's the most complimentary piece Kyrie would have had. So that's essentially what we would have been doing. We would have been bringing us a piece like Kyrie Irving and not bringing us pieces that we needed to help Kyrie Irving. So it's the type of stuff that you do when you're a responsible organization. You don't simply say, I want this player and just go get him. You better make sure you can do something with him or you're going to make him look bad. You're going to have him down there, just like I said in the previous video, losing together with you and everybody else. So it's like, if I'm going to bring you to my situation, I want to know that I can bring you to a winner. I'm not bringing you here so I can blame you for us losing. I want to win. And that's exactly what I think would have happened if we would have brought Kyrie here and didn't get us that sum of those rest of those parts. If they got him here, we would have fell short and we would have blamed him. And that's just trash. How about we go get the stuff that we can use to win and win? Nobody has to be upset about being a Laker because everybody here will be winning. And so that's what it's all about, man. Same thing I said about Beasley. You don't have him out there to struggle and then we all look at him and say it's your fault. How about we sit him down, bring in the person who can help us win, and we all win together. And Beasley be happy too because he's going to be winning. And see, that's what it should be about. That's what it's about. I don't want to go. I told y'all, I'm a fan of the Lakers. I don't want them to suit me up. I don't want them to put me on the floor. I take the money, but I definitely don't want them checking me in the game because if you check me in the game, I'm a liability. You think that makes me happy saying that? Nah, I want to be the best player in the world. But guess what? That ain't the reality of it. And so we just all got to know what it's going to take to win. And if you're going to be the reason we lose, then you probably shouldn't want to be out there. You know what I mean? So that's what I say to the Kyrie Irving circumstance. For those who want Kyrie on the team, you better make sure you can bring everything else that's going to help him be a champion. And if you're bringing him here so that he can fall short and you can blame him, you ain't doing him no favors. So I that's what I think about the fullness of that conversation. Love to have Kyrie on the team. Would also love to be able to afford everything it takes to make him as good as we need to be in order for him to be a focal point piece with those two superstars. And I know that we can't do that stuff if we bring him in at his price. It's not gonna happen. And so that's what you got to sell to the player. You know, if you know he wants to be a Laker, obviously the fan base, a lot of us would love to have him here, but it ain't that simple. And we got to know what it takes to win. And if we could build a champion around Kyrie, KD, and AD, that's a wonderful thing. But are we certain we wouldn't be breaking up something that is a champion to do it? I'm not certain of that at all. So I just have to be real about that as a Kyrie Irving fan and somebody who wants to see him wear purple and gold someday. And you know, there's always a way. I tell everybody, you want to be on a team bad enough, you'll make the sacrifice and investment necessary to be on a good team. You know, people spend $1 million on a car, but don't want to spend $1 million on some teammates. I don't get it. I don't get it. You know what I mean? But if you look at it that way and you really value winning, that's exactly what it is. People invest in all kinds of other stuff, but they don't want to invest in their damn teammates. They don't want to invest in their own health. Making sure you got enough people to give you a breather. Make sure you have enough size to keep you from banging up against heavy people. That makes more money for you in the long run. Because I'm telling you, you keep having that big old 7-footer leaning on your back, you ain't going to make it to your next contract. These are things that players need to believe and understand. So I'm just aware, man. I'm just aware of this kind of stuff. Salute the Kobe minute as we're approaching it. You know what I mean? I really appreciated that the Lakers were able to put champions around him, but near the tail end, we ran into that problem right there. Give him all kinds of money, but didn't bring him no kind of teammates. And we sucked. We didn't blame him because we were just aware that the team was just kind of in a Jim Buss era. We were entering that, and Kobe was in the exited years, and it was an aura around Kobe that people didn't want to play with him and all kinds of other goofy stuff that didn't seem true to me. But, you know, it was what it was at the end of the day. It took a long time to turn it around because of a couple of mistakes. And I think that now when you have learned from those mistakes, you kind of look at the data that we've gotten. We just kind of know one thing leads to another, and you don't sign up for certain stuff because it can tumble you forward into a path of mediocrity. Just if you do things the wrong way. So that's my take, man. That is my take on that situation. Ultimately, I'm happy that the Lakers did what they did, and we're a better team because of it. I think we're in a firm position to withstand injury much more so, and I think we're younger, which I think is going to play in our favor, given the fact that we have older core. You know, you think about an older team, so to speak, who needs rest, this, that, and the third. Bron and AD need rest. Tristan Thompson is an older guy, even though he doesn't play yet for us. He would need some rest if he were worn out. But other than that, everybody on the team 27 years old or younger. Ain't nobody need too much rest. Ain't nobody shouldn't be able to come in and off a back-to-back and give some energy out there or playing an overtime or 2 overtimes. Everybody there is under 30, man. Y'all should be running and running hard, and that's what we need. Just a bunch of guys who have the energy to do it. And that's another concern I have with bringing in an older guy. Kyrie still got plenty in the tank, but as we go deep into that contract, he's going to start to age. And so with his super talent level, he's always going to be able to get a bucket. But is he going to be more or less effective in other areas? Are you going to have to do more hiding or less hiding? And so these are things that I just think about. And it's like, if the cap would allow me to do it and the pieces were easily obtainable and we didn't already have what we have in place that makes us happy, of course, that'd be something I want to do. But if I got to, as already said, let go of a bunch of pieces to bring in one, and that piece ain't going to be able to affect the defensive end like Anthony Davis to make up for it, it don't make no sense. That just don't make no sense. You know what I mean? So that's how I look at that. Now, going forward, the Los Angeles Lakers, of course, got to figure out what they want to do. I was thinking about the 17th pick overall and trying to trade up. And I look at Malik Beasley at $16 million, and I say, there's no way anybody would actually give me a better pick if I gave them 17 and Beasley, would they? Because if they would, that's definitely what I'd do. That's where my head is. But I just don't think Beasley's situation allows for that. I think it's a team option. It's that kind of thing, which really does not play well for Beasley. There's no way they're kicking that up. There's no way they're picking that up, fam. So in that case, we wouldn't be able to pick that up and then sign it and trade it, because every team in the league would look at us and say, why the hell did you pick that up? We don't want it, and neither should you. So that's exactly what's going to happen there. But for me, in a perfect world, we take whatever he's worth, couple that with 17, and move up to 15 or 14, man. I'm serious. I wouldn't give us a better pick. Not because it fits a specific timeline or anything. It's actually the opposite of that. It don't fit the timeline at all, really. But I just want us, in a draft that could potentially be one of the best drafts in a long time, to have a better pick since we're in the mix in that first round. 17 is cool, but let's get greedy. I want a better player. I want our scouts to have a better opportunity at scouting a better talent. Because when you have the best scouts in the league and the only thing you can come up with is second-round picks and undrafted players, you're not using that scouting team in a way that gets the most out of it. Because what you want them doing is scouting the very best talent so they can bring you the next sleeper in the entire draft. You know? And so the higher the pick, the more likely that is possible. And that's why I want to move from 17 to into the lottery. Now, I know that that's not possible necessarily, but we may get lucky and find a team in the 13, 14 range that kind of favors a guy behind that range a little more. And if something like that manifests, we need to get involved. LA, I want you to get involved. If you find that the Pelicans want to trade their pick because they like somebody in the 17 range and it doesn't make sense to reach, that is the type of thing I want us to do. Because at the end of the day, I want them scouts to have the best possible pick in this particular draft, especially since there's a chance we won't even get a pick in the first round next year, with the pick swap being as it is. And if they want next year, then we won't get it the year after that. So for me, it's like I want a better pick this year. 17 is cool, but let's get greedy. Give me a better player than that. And if Beasley, at his price and with his reputation of being a lethal shooter, probably a bunch of teams who can get more out of him than we can, if we could couple him together with the pick, you know what I mean? That would be amazing. Get him to a good spot where he can shoot the ball a bunch of times and not be a complete liability to the roster, and take that pick and the value what it's worth and try to get yourself something better. That's the way to do it. Now, I do want to trade the pick for a pick. I don't want to trade the pick for a player. I want our scouts to have that option. That's where the value is for me. Loving our scouts and wanting them to have that. So Trading them for third year guy, nah, that's not what we're trading 17 for if I'm choosing it. And we're certainly not trading down because that defeats my purpose. My purpose is for us to do better. So that's what I want to do with the 17th pick, man. I want to turn it into the 14th pick or 13th pick. And I think our scouts will knock it out the park and get us probably the best player in the range there is to find while everybody else is passing on him. We going to take him. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So I haven't done as much scouting as of yet, but there are some very intriguing prospects with some length. Smith is, Smith Jr. is a definitely interesting player. Nick Smith, I believe is his name. 6'8", forward. He could be in our range. Very interesting. I told you guys about Hawkins, the shooter. That's a no-brainer for somebody's team. He should actually be drafted sooner than 17. I think the NBA will make a huge mistake if he ain't drafted within the first 15 picks. We mentioned some guys, but we got a lot of homework to do. But in our range, we have some very nice prospects that we would be very happy to bring in. But, if we can get a little higher, I think that would be even better. You know what I mean? Just a little bit higher so we can get somebody that can make a massive impact and kind of get lucky here and find ourselves another super duper young player that can basically add to our dominance is what I would be calling it. Dominance. Because if you put too many good players on top of what we already have, that's exactly the type of conversation we're going to be having. It ain't going to be about can the Lakers get through the West. It's going to be about can the Lakers win a couple of them before AD and Bron retire. Before Austin Reeves, has to take on a bigger bag to represent what it is that his role is ultimately going to be in this league one day. You got to pay him $120 million. His teammates ain't going to be as good as they are right now. So these kind of things we just got to be real about and try to get as much inexpensive and pieces like Austin Reeves to keep us cheap, but super talented. You know what I mean? Because that's what made us as good as we are. We keep on finding these Austin Reeves dudes. So let's keep on finding them. Keep on finding them so you can pay Austin and still be just as good. So these are the things that are on my mind, man. I know it's playoff time. A lot of people are breaking down the Grizzlies and stuff like that, but I'm always zooming out, looking at the franchise. I'm a franchise mind. I'm definitely thinking about the Lakers and the future and the present and reflecting on the past and happy to be past it. At this point, we have a chance to get 18. And the one thing I tasked the Lakers with doing is just taking care of every possession, respecting every possession, respecting mistakes that have already been made that have taught us to be humble, to never think that we the best team in the world just because we picked up a really good roster, because we still got to work on those things. And so, and then from there, don't respect the opponent too much. Don't respect the opponent too much because they got a good record or because they ran through the West. You would have ran through the West too. If you had this roster whole season, you'd had a better record than them. And that's what I believe. Denver Nuggets wouldn't be at the top of the West if we was up here the whole season and healthy. They wouldn't be at the top. Sacramento wouldn't be at the top if we was all season with this roster, this healthy. We're the number one team in the Western Conference. I'm going to tell you that right now. If we're playing like we're supposed to, we have the number one roster in the Western Conference, to be exact. So that's what I got to say, man. Respect to the NBA champions, Golden State Warriors. I don't ever take nothing away from the Splash Brothers. I know who they are, but they don't have a better roster than us. Not fully. Absolutely not. Not right now. So it is what it is, man. I just want us to continue to be respectful of all the different elements, having confidence and balance to say, we ain't done enough. We ain't did nothing. Let's keep on working. Let the other team do the gritty. Let the other team talk about what they've accomplished without actually doing anything. We know what it takes. We've done it 2 years ago. Let's do it again. And that's what gives me confidence. And 2 years ago, we were champs, or 3 years ago, rather. There's only been a couple of champions since we last had it. It was the Bucks and who else? It wasn't the Raptors because we got it after them. Who just got it right now? Golden State. There's only two champions that have seen glory since we got it. So I ain't too far away from believing that we're about to capture our second championship if we do what we're supposed to do, because we've already proven it in this era. And teams know it. So don't respect them too much. Don't respect them too much. If you run into the Grizzlies, obviously we are, knock them off, understanding that they haven't accomplished what we hope to. You run to the Golden State Warriors, you got to respect them. You run to Sacramento Kings, you got to respect them. But at the end of the day, these teams got to respect us too. They got to respect us too. And when you get to where you want to go, assuming things go well for the team, and you happen to see Boston if for some reason you happen to see Philly, understand that these teams ain't accomplished what we have. Boston still don't have no damn championship in this era. Philly ain't never won nothing. And Milwaukee got one with respect. You know what I mean? That's Giannis. And he has done what he's done, but we don't have anybody in this league with our roster being constructed the way that it is right now that we should be cowering from or looking at as if we can't beat them in a 7-game series or looking as if we can't match up with them on any given night when we're healthy. This is not true. It just happens to not be the case. So, yeah, man, great times as a Laker fan. And I hope that with those good times come a certain level of killer instinct to kind of keep them good times rolling, because that's what's going to get us there. We saw how we ran out the gym yesterday. We saw how we hit them with a huge run to end the game. I would love us to have that mentality every single night in these playoffs, regardless if we're winning or losing. Make sure that we go on a run to end the game. That should be our signature. That should be something we look to do to teams every night. And if you have that MO, you're going to win a lot of games. And we turn up we put the energy up the last 5 minutes of the game. I like that identity. I think we should adapt to that. Austin Reeves spearheads that, and of course our superstars have to do that for us as well. And I think our superstars have shown a great deal of learning from the start of the season to where we are now. I see improvement in our superstars. Bron handles basketball games, closes basketball games much better now than he did back then. He fits seamlessly more so now to me. He's more so kind of blendable. Guys like Austin Reeves, we saw it last night. Austin Reeves was able to cook, get his, spread his wings out, get a bunch of plays in a row. Rui Hachimura was able to spread his wings out, have a bunch of plays in a row. That's what I need from Bron. You understand what I'm saying to y'all? That's what I need from Bron. While everybody else is telling Bron to be the king, I want Bron to be a guy. A guy. Because I think he can do much more damage from that role than having everybody look at him like he's been the king. You don't need to look at him like the king. You need to look at him like he's somebody else. And then he will destroy you. Destroy you from that position. That's what I know. LeBron James in 2023 is a much more dangerous second and third star than he would be the focal point right now. Much more dangerous. And so that's what I understand. Take some of that pressure off the king. Let him, for once in his life, deal with single coverage and deal with people playing off of him. Because he never dealt with that. Even when he was playing with Wade, even when he was playing with Mo Williams, all these different guys, it wasn't like this. It wasn't like get a ball to somebody else for like 8 possessions in a row and watch them connect as we win together. Bron don't get to relax like that in no basketball games. This is the most talented team that he's ever been a part of. Sorry, Heatles, it is. Because y'all didn't have no Lonnie Walkers and Max Christies and all that on the back of your bench. You didn't. Some of them dudes was all right. Some of them dudes was over the hill. Some of them dudes was Udonis Haslem. And I'm telling you, we ain't that. We ain't got none of that on our roster right now. And we could go right here and now, up and down the roster. We got an Anthony Davis piece that he ain't never played with. And LeBron James ain't never played with no defensive player like Anthony Davis. Respected Dwayne Wade, one of the greatest defenders of all time. It's a different position, and they ain't affect the ball like that. He ain't affect the ball like no Anthony Davis. I'm telling y'all, this is the best team Bron ever been on in the NBA. It is. And so it would be a crying shame if it's yet another finals loss or yet another exit in the playoffs. We're too good for that. The West is too weak for that. With respect to these teams, the Memphis Grizzlies, they're really, really good. But I do believe this is the best defense Anthony Davis is going to see. Arguably, until the Eastern Conference. Until the Eastern Conference, this is going to be the best interior defensive player Anthony is going to run into. Jaren Jackson's the best we got out here in the West. Who's better than Jaren Jackson and guarding Anthony Davis right now? Who? Nobody out West? You don't say Giannis? You know what I'm saying? You going to go with the Cleveland guys and Mobley and them? You going to go with Joel? Because those are the names. Ain't no Rudy Gobert. Who is it? You got Sabonis stopping AD? You got Draymond stopping AD? You got Aaron Gordon stopping AD? Well, how about the power forwards of the Clippers? They don't even have a power forward. Who is it? Kawhi? Maybe Paul comes back. Can he stop Anthony? Hell no. Who else is out there? Who in the Western Conference can stop Anthony Davis? If it ain't Jaren Jackson, I look at the teams that are left. Who? Minnesota. We saw how he did Carl and Rudy. We saw it. They're not a viable front court to defeat Anthony Davis when he's playing better than, playing well. They can't stop him. And they can't hardly score on him either, which is really, really a problem, because not only are you trying to stop Anthony Davis, but you are realizing that he's actually effectively stopping you and your entire team. So, like I said, this is the top 5 basketball player when he's healthy. We had lost sight of that. It's easy to get frustrated with him when he goes down for 2 months at a time with injuries, or every time he falls to the ground, you feel a little bit of a gasp. But at the end of the day, when he's right, even when he's not right, he's still dominant defensively. Even when he's not necessarily scoring the ball and hitting free throws, he's still rebounding the ball and doing everything for your team defensively. So, and when he does go up offensively, he can score 60 points. So it's easy to flip-flop on Anthony Davis, especially when he's doing poorly, when he's lackadaisical, when he's hurt, and all these different things we complain about are real. 15.8 rebound games are real. But then you come into a situation where you realize you ain't never going to be better without him. You're not. When you consider how much he does for his team versus literally everybody who does everything for their team, he does more for us than most of the league does for itself. Just period, though. Like, literally, you think about Jokic and his usage is high as hell. You think about Joel's two-way ability and what he does for his team. You know for a fact that, the Bucks can't win too much without Giannis at all. Those guys are the highest usage players in my mind on both sides of the floor. Then you start talking about guards like Drew Holiday and stuff like that. Great two-way players like that. Anthony is a better defensive player than all of those people, man. All of them. And when he's right offensively, he's as good offensively as any of them. So for me, understanding the fullness of Anthony Davis is very, very hard to deal with him when he's not playing well, which is what the next thing to say. It's like, you got all this in your head and you still considering what you need to do in regards to making your team better if he goes down. You got all this in your head and you're still getting frustrated because of the games that he misses and the health delicacy of his situation. But you gotta take this into account when you're assessing it. There ain't 10 people in this league better than him at all. They're just not more talented than him. Even if they have more physical gifts, they ain't better at the sport of basketball than him. Not naturally. A guy like Giannis might have gotten to this point eventually, but he wasn't born a basketball player like Anthony Davis. He had to work hard on his game for 8 and 9 years to become what it is that we see right here. If AD had the same type of focus on him to become the best he could be and all of that, he'd be even greater. If he was raised in the Buck system and hidden for 5 years while he developed slowly, he would be even greater. New Orleans ain't do that with him. So these are things that I know, man. Who is a better all-around basketball player, Giannis or Anthony Davis? Anthony Marshawn Davis is a more gifted basketball player than Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I'm telling you this with absolute confidence. He is. He's just a better player. He ain't more gifted physically. But when it comes to the science of basketball, you sit down and just start doing a test, writing basketball. Anthony Davis, man. Anthony Marshawn Davis. And so it's up to him to prove that by not being lackadaisical. The difference between him and Giannis, in my opinion, is Giannis don't ever take a day off. Giannis ain't tired ever. Giannis ain't, skipping out on no work. Giannis is going absolutely hard to be a Mamba-like entity at all times. And he's dominant in that way because he repeatedly destroys people with his godlike conditioning. But like I said, he had to learn how to play, man. He could barely shoot when he came into the league. He had to learn how to play. Anthony Davis, none of that. No, man. Came out, rolled out of bed, this player here, right? This is who God made him to be. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I'm at with Marshawn Davis, Anthony Marshawn Davis. I don't think there's one single player that's better on both sides of the floor in the league today. When he's right. When he's right. And he needs to tell us when he's right, because half the time he ain't right. That's the problem. So we love what AD's done for us. We want to see him on this team. We don't want to think it makes sense to trade him. And we certainly don't want to forget about how high his level goes on both sides of the floor when it's time to do so. If you're not giving me a record number of picks for this man, don't call me when it's time to trade him. Because when he's playing like this, I can run his value all the way up. And he's starting to continue to play like this in the playoffs. A performance like yesterday alone. 7 blocks, that right there made his value go up in the offseason. So if you want Anthony Davis, don't try to offer us anything less than what we got for him, because he's worth more now to me than he was when we acquired him. More. He's an NBA champion now. So that's really what I got to say, man. I could totally see Anthony Davis staying on this team for the rest of his career, because he's just simply too great to give up on, even when we have all the problems that we have. But I flip-flop on that. I'm pretty sure I will flip-flop again, because being without him is a headache. It's a headache. And it's something that any team that has him has to live with. And we will keep that balance, just like we talking the praises of Anthony. We will also talk about how much we're concerned every time he gets hurt. Yesterday, the hand, the arm, like it doesn't matter what it is, it's always going to give us a heart attack. But that's also a testament to how important he is to us. The balance just the same. So that's what I got to say, man. Number 3, shout out to AD. We've been up and down. I'm sure he's probably not a fan of me, because I'm always speaking out of both sides of my mouth when it comes to him, but I'm just as inconsistent as he is. It's the bottom line. When he shows me that he's worthy of keeping and can give us all that we're getting from him in that Memphis game, then I want him on the team for the rest of his career. If he's playing like he did against God knows who it was when he went for 15 points, he hardly give us nothing, and we lost, that's the guy that I'm ready to trade. That's the guy I think it's probably best that I don't have the risk of his health, that, all that stuff. So I just want us to keep that balance as it pertains to AD and understand exactly who it is that we have, and then treat him accordingly. He's the number 1 player on this team. I'm sorry, Bron. I respect your history, but this is just 2023. It's where we're at. AD is our guy. He's the number 1 guy. We got to use him that way. We got to respect what it is he can and cannot do, whatever they may be, and appreciate him just the same, because if we use him as a focal point on both sides of the floor, then the chances of us getting a championship skyrocket. Simply skyrocket. So that's what it is, baby. Purple and gold. We got 18 in our on our minds. We got 15 wins to get it. And our team is capable. The field is weak. And the toughest defense in front of AD is in front of him right now. So that's what I got to say, man. BDF 44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.